Good evening. It is just about 7 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast in America, and we have a number of breaking news stories to talk to you about today. First of all, today was the first day of the Biden administration in which there were 0 encounters at the southern border. Fantastic. Joe Biden ended up taking questions from reporters and had a robust Q&A, which was phenomenal. And Biden actually tweeted one of his own tweets on X, the social media site formerly known as Twitter. Of course, this is all a lie. It is, after all, April Fool's Day. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. This is Toxic Masculinity. I'm here joined by the boys. Hello, boys.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Here reporting in the den of masculinity. So.
The den of masculinity. He's got his fatigues. He's got his American flag in the background.
We're all in.
I didn't know we were supposed to come up with names for where we're coming from. This is the loft of shame.
This is the loft of shame. Okay, I like that. This is the... I'll come up with a name later.
I don't deserve to live in Hawaii in such beautiful surroundings.
We won't discuss the name of my place. We'll just keep that under wraps for now. But we'll discuss it after the show, maybe privately.
You call it something.
Yeah, the Bali Bungalow, something like that. Okay. All right, gentlemen, what is our first news story for today? Jason, what's going on in the world? Explain it to us.
So let's go with a popular, well, not popular, but big story. It'll take at least a decade and $2 billion to rebuild the bridge in Baltimore.
Okay, that's a nice headline. That's a hell of a headline. So what do they? I read this story. You sent us this article, right? Kurt's still adjusting everything. Because,
not quite centered.
Den of shame. Den of shame. He's got to live up to the name.
Now you know why.
All right. Yeah, I read this story, and this is a little bit frustrating for me. And they're trying to justify it by saying, oh, well, the bridge cost this much back in the 70s, and like roads cost a lot of money to make and all this kind of stuff. Kurt, how often are they paving highways in Hawaii?
Oh, well, there's funny you should mention that. There's a street called the Pali, and it's a freeway. It runs kind of there's the H3 runs sort of similar way, but the military built that, so that thing's great. But the Pali, it seems, I don't know what the problem is. It seems like they repair it from the top to the bottom. So anytime you try to take it, there's traffic, there's lane closures, it's terrible. And once they get down to the bottom, they start at the top and start tearing it up again. And I don't know if it's because they don't know what they're doing, so they just have kind of have to keep rebuilding it. They're using cheap materials, or it's just because they have X amount of money to spend. They get the politicians elected with their support, so they give them a bunch of money. And they're like, what do we do with all this money, guys? Hey, let's rebuild that road again, because it's been going on for years.
No. It's nothing. It's
for years.
It's nothing as innocent as that. They're not dumb. I mean, they're dumb in a sense.
I'm not going to rule it out, but it seems like they have a certain amount of funds, and by God, they're going to spend them. That's what it seems.
It's $2 billion for the Democrat Party. That's what it's for.
Exactly right. Exactly. So this is how it works. This is how it works, Kurt. You go, okay, you know what we need? We need a project to house the homeless. The homeless problem is a big problem. We need to house the homeless. So they come up with this big housing project for the homeless. They go, this will take 2 years to make, and it'll cost, $100 million. And everybody goes, okay, whatever, get them out of here, house the homeless. It's a big problem, whatever. It ends up taking 10 years and, $700 million. And where does that money go? It certainly doesn't go into the project. The project doesn't cost any more than $100 million. What happens is is they're just constantly feeding this, these construction companies, all these different
It's a
companies.
money laundering scheme. Yeah,
It's a money laundering. It's an embezzlement scheme, really.
sure.
Money laundering. Everybody gets money laundering wrong. People say the word money laundering when what they really mean is embezzlement or just theft, right?
Mhm.
And money laundering is really taking stolen funds or taking ill-gotten gains through drug, illicit activity, selling drugs, whatever it might be, and then funneling it through a legitimate business. So you get like, a laundromat, for instance, or a car wash or something like that, a cash business or a strip club, and you go, or even a candy store. So this is the crazy thing. A lot of them own candy stores because candy stores are often cash-only businesses. And then instead of saying they made, whatever it is, $20,000 in a month, they say, oh, we actually made $100,000 this month, or whatever it might be. Let's say
Let's hope that's the only reason they'd like to own candy stores. That's the most innocent reason they might have. But
I feel like my numbers are way off. Yeah,
we have one of those in Hawaii as well. So forget about the Pali. We have the rail, the $8 billion train.
I was going to get to that.
That was going to go from Kapolei, so the new area they're building out there, second city they call it. It was going to go like to the college and to the airport. Well, they only made it as far as the stadium, Aloha Stadium, and the stadium is actually not being used because it's crumbling. It's in a state of disrepair. So it goes from an area that tourists don't want to go to, doesn't go to the airport, goes to the stadium that's not in use, and it's cost $8 billion. It's a huge money hole. It's running with nobody on it, and it's going to keep running, and it's never going to even come close to breaking even, let alone putting a dent in what it costs to build the dang thing.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing in LA.
It's a monument to how the Democrats in this state were duped yet again. That's what it is.
You mean the Democrat voters were duped into voting for evil politicians that steal their money?
Correct. Yes.
Anytime there's a light rail system or any kind of public transportation thing.
They had the Simpsons monorail episode. Did no one learn from that? That was like 20 years ago. They should have seen that.
They're teaching
you gotta watch
people
your Simpsons so you know what's
really going on. It's 100% true. It's 100% true.
But as far as the bridge, I feel like it is a money laundering for the Democrat Party, but also that's I read that that's an important source of how products and everything, even with the military, that everything flows through there. It's a major port, and I'm thinking maybe there's something strategic for that happening to
about
stopping
that bridge down.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people are speculating about that.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories. Do you think any of these conspiracy theories hold any water, Chris? Do any of them sound like, okay, yeah, maybe that's a thing? Or do you not know?
I have no idea. I'm agnostic on that. Like, what was interesting is I posted on Twitter just to hear what people had to say, because you could see little flashes of flames go off on the points where the bridge broke. And it seemed like that those points of flashing of flames were being caused by the bridge breaking, as opposed to they were like explosions causing the bridge to break. But they did look like explosions. And I didn't really understand where they're coming from, because I'm like, okay, I know if you have an electrical cable that can snap and cause a spark, sure. Maybe the shearing of the metal can cause some kind of sparks or flames or something. But it doesn't seem like that. Seemed like they were really big flames, because the camera was really far away and you can see these sort of big flames come out. And I thought, well, let me just ask people who are engineers on Twitter or something what that could be, because they'll probably have better, because I didn't think there was any high power cables running across the bridge, because I figured that they would go under the water, right? That's what I assumed normally where they put them, but maybe they run them across.
It is Baltimore though, so
well, I don't know. Maybe that's the best way to do it, is run it across a bridge. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. I wish I would have gone into engineering, to be honest, because engineering is such a cool profession. I've always been fascinated by engineering. So I expected some people to, experts to come on. So many people came on and were like, stop spreading conspiracy theories, stop spreading lies. And these are conservatives. I'm like, I literally just asked why there were these flames on the bridge at the break points. I wasn't trying to imply anything. I kind of knew when I posted that some people would infer from it that I was trying to spread a conspiracy
It's
theory.
hard for me to sort of like build up any sort of vitriol against conspiracy theories and be like, oh,
I know.
Don't go that way because, well, how many of these so-called conspiracy theories have come true? And the left
Exactly.
labels everything as conspiracy theory. And if anything, that should be your indication that there's probably something to it.
Look,
I mean, I'm not going to write off anything just because it sounds.
I don't think it's impossible that
because
something
of all the things we've
been
actually
going
seen.
on.
Yeah.
How difficult would it be to turn the light on and off on the boat a couple of times and go, oh, we have an electrical failure. Oops. Whoopsie. I mean, that's a pretty easy scam. But no. Look, at the end of the day, the Democrats have so much money right now because of the infrastructure bill that they had passed. Right? They could build that bridge. And you know what we should do? This is my plan for the bridge. Do you remember many, many years ago, the story about in New York, many, many years ago, they were trying to renovate the skating rink at Rockefeller Center, I think it was, right? Or no, in not at Rockefeller Center, in Central Park. They were trying to renovate the skating rink. And they couldn't do it. It was like 10 years. They'd gone way over budget. It was obviously some kind of a scam for the city. Finally, Donald Trump comes in. And he goes, I'll do it for like a 10th of the price or whatever, and a 10th of the time. And they went, okay, fine, we'll give it to you guys. So he just put his like,
we can't do
exactly,
it. We can't
exactly.
It was closed, wasn't it? No, we need this bill. Otherwise, we can't do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So Trump comes in and he just fixes the skating rink like in a blink of an eye, fixes the skating rink super cheap.
Yep.
Just does it easy. Because he's got the construction know-how because he's been building skyscrapers, he's been building things for, decades. I say, let's vote in Trump president and then let's give him the job of fixing the bridge. Like, let's give the Trump company the job of building the bridge.
That's a great idea.
Which sounds like a scam, right? It sounds like a scam.
Yeah.
But it's actually the best path forward. That's the crazy thing. Anyway. All right. Are we happy with that? Are we satisfied with that? You guys got anything else to say about the bridge?
I don't know enough to make any sort of like about the bridge to make some sort of great insight into it. So we better just move on.
Okay.
Well, before we get to the next story, I would like to talk about Krating Dang. Now this because I'm in Asia right now. This is the original Red Bull, you guys. Like the guys who did Red Bull came over here. I think they came to Thailand or something, and they found this stuff, which is like the original energy drink.
Yeah, it's like original Coke. So that actually has the bull testicle juice in it, right? Not like the American Red Bull.
Exactly. So they still sell this stuff, but I think they probably have changed the label a little bit to make it look more like Red Bull. So, or maybe this was the original packaging. I don't know. But anyway, this is the original energy drink that started the whole energy drink craze. Pretty crazy, interesting stuff.
But the one in Bali has cocaine in it, right?
Actually,
you get your hands on that stuff with the way you love those.
Actually, I'm on the plane. Coming in because I was traveling a little bit, and I'm coming in like this, like last week, and they announce over the speaker, they're like, if anybody has any narcotics on the plane, Indonesia has very strict laws, and if you are trafficking any narcotics, you will be executed.
You better open the window and throw them out right now. It's kind of late, isn't it? You better open the window and toss them out now before we land. You're going to be in trouble, mister.
Exactly.
What are you supposed to do at that point?
Thanks for letting me know now. Yeah, while we're in the plane.
Just have the cameras on you just to see who starts spontaneously sweating. So that when the guys at the airport waiting will be like, oh, that guy's got some stuff on. Look at his eyes going.
It's a trap. Yeah. If
Thanks
you're a drug dealer, run now. Just jump out the window. But it was kind of like a shocking announcement, right? Obviously I don't do any kind of drugs or anything, but I was just like, oh man, that's pretty hardcore. But I kind of like that, actually. I mean,
it's dangerous, I guess, because they're kidding, right? That's not really a thing, is it? Can you
Somebody
hold this
could, like,
bag
slip
for me?
drug-
No reason.
So yeah, exactly. Somebody could slip you drugs or something. So it's kind of dangerous in that way. I don't think that a small
See,
amount would get
that
you
would be my
executed.
instinct, but I'm the guy that gets arrested for no reason because I have a smart mouth. That's why I can't go to these countries. Can't go to Dubai or anything.
But it's kind of
Ugly
nice because
American
there's no
cane in
like
public.
there's no like smell of pot smoke or anything. I mean, they do burn a lot of incense, which is annoying. But you don't smell pot.
Oh,
Like in LA, if you
that's
walk down the
awesome.
streets in LA, you smell marijuana
No,
everywhere.
here in
It's
Miami,
horrific.
you
Even here in my
drive your
neighborhood.
car and you're getting the smell of marijuana from the car in front of you, and the smell is just.
What's happening to America, you guys? We're becoming this like cloud of pot smoke. That there's just this whole cloud of pot smoke over the whole nation. And a lot of conservatives are like okay with this. They're like, oh, we are for deregulation. So it's okay if everybody smokes weed. It's cool.
I'd say
no,
they're
it's
more
not.
libertarians than they are conservatives, if that's the case. But
Right, but the libertarians do influence the conservatives a lot because we both believe in deregulation.
Even the
but I don't
conservatives want to
believe
be
in
cool.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot more conservatives are smoking weed now, like recreationally, like just I had an uncle who had cancer. I mean, he like died of cancer. Okay. So as he was dying, the doctors prescribed him marijuana. This is very early on. I mean, this is like a long time, like in the 90s. And we all thought it was a little bit weird, but it was the only thing that seemed to help him. So in those very specific cases where it is the best drug to do the job, okay. But obviously these laws are being abused horribly. It's de facto legal everywhere. It's actually legal in a lot of places. I don't know. I think we need to like just go back to being a much more moral country. I got a video about that.
The problem with the legalization is it's sort of like when you're permissive about something, it destigmatizes it. So the idea that it's like that's the problem with like the same thing as with like abortion. Just like, okay, we probably should have abortion for medical reasons, for certain things like that. But the idea that it's just like, oh yeah, just do it. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's no problem. Like don't attach any sort of like negative stigma to it because we want people to do it. So you have the same thing with pot. It's just like, okay, it's not that there's nothing wrong with it. So if you legalize it, that can't help but destigmatize it, which means that people would be like, oh, it's fine. It's just like, oh, it's just like having a Coke. It's just like whatever,
Yeah, it's the concept of like, well, kids drink wine in France, and it's not like a big deal for them, but like France actually has quite a significant alcoholism problem. People don't really realize, and if you destigmatize something, like you said, it does take some of the edge off of it. So people aren't trying to do it as much to be cool, maybe so much. But like in the Netherlands, they had marijuana like legalized and it was fine. If you have a good culture with like decent people who strive to be like impressive and exceptional and do great things, okay, yes. But if you have a society where a lot of people in that society are just lazy pieces of crap and they just want to like do drugs and hang out and be homeless and whatever, they don't care. And it doesn't work the same way,
Sure.
Like,
That's a good point. That's a great point.
I think was going on recently in San Francisco, but in Portland, didn't they do the whole decriminalize everything, and now they're walking it back because they just became a land of like post-apocalyptic zombies because everybody's just doing everything. It's like the party.
Absolutely, 100% exactly what happened.
So we've seen that it's a failed experiment, and
it is failing.
That's why we need to have more
freedom
freedom for states too, because then in a certain state they can do something stupid and fall flat on their face, and we don't prevent them from doing it on the federal level, and we don't have everybody do it. So we still have other states who are just like, oh, glad we didn't do that. We can learn from their mistakes.
Right. Well, so again,
rights.
It's called Kratting Dang. And it's the original Red Bull.
This episode's sponsor, Kratting Dang.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, there's no hard drugs in it, but it's funny to pretend. All right, let's get on to our next story. Jason, what do we got?
The next story is kind of a funny one, and an ironic one, I guess. Letitia James, did I say her name right? Faces growing pressure to prosecute Jon Stewart over property over evaluation. This is a good one.
This is kind of a funny story. Well, this was pretty crazy because Jon Stewart overvalued his property, and they found out right after, like going after Trump hardcore. Like he was going after Trump hardcore, like really ridiculing him, making fun of him, saying that they should throw the book at him. Look, we all know that Trump did not ridiculously overvalue his properties. He didn't benefit from overvaluing his properties. Everybody who was working with Trump knew how valuable his properties were. If anything, Letitia James, the judge, everybody else involved were undervaluing his properties, especially Mar-a-Lago. You remember they were saying like Mar-a-Lago was like worth like 18 million or something.
Well, they want to undervalue his properties too because their long-term goal was to seize them. So if they undervalue his properties, then it's like, oh no, we need all of it. We need more stuff. Because if they valued it properly, it wouldn't hurt him that bad, even the 450 million.
But this is their chance to prove that no one's above the law. So she needs to prosecute him. If not, we know their real agenda, and their real agenda was just to get Trump.
But come on, let's be real. Let's be real. No, come on. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Come on, nobody's above the law.
You can't really blame what's his face, Jon Stewart, because he lives in a bubble. That's the thing about these leftists. Is just like everybody agrees with them. They've only surrounded themselves with other people that have the same politics, and they know that there's two tiers of justice, and they can sort of like say and do, get away with whatever they want. So he never in a million years thought that somebody was going to look into his affairs. He was just like, oh yeah, this is what we do. We agree that Trump's a bad man, and whatever we do to Trump is justified because Trump bad, us good. That's the
but now that they did, he should pay back the money that he overvaluated or he should.
Well, I think it's not really about whether or not he should pay back any money or anything. I think it's that Letitia James needs to go after him in this big public trial, and throw all these ridiculous rules at him. You know what I mean? And march him, parade him past the cameras and everything like that. He's got to get his handcuffed. He's got to get.
He needs to be the fall guy, right?
Well, I mean, of course they're not going to do that, and of course they shouldn't do that. Really, of course they shouldn't do that. Really, but they never should have done it to Trump. I mean, we all know why they're going after Trump. All right, let's be honest. We all know why they're going after Trump. They don't want Trump to run in 2024. They're trying to bankrupt him. They're trying to take him off the ballots. They're trying to do whatever they can to keep him out because they're afraid that he's going to expose the corruption of a lot of bad people in Washington D.C. A lot of corrupt D.C. people. That's what's really going on. So.
But you notice how nothing.
If you watch my show, you know that.
Yeah, you know how nothing really affects Trump. Like it always goes back on the people that are after him. They're the ones that are always. They're the ones with the real crimes. They're the ones with the that really need to be put in jail. And it's amazing how nothing sticks onto Trump.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was actually really worried about them seizing his assets and stuff. I was like, oh, this is terrible. Like they're basically martyring Trump by trying to bankrupt him or whatever. I'm just like,
oh, I was like, please take everything.
They may have him this time, with the almost 600 million. Like if they start seizing his he could still win the presidency. He could still raise funds and stuff. But like, it sucks if they can just like shut down your business. Of course, during COVID, a lot of people had the government shut down their businesses, take their livelihoods. So Trump would be even more relatable, even more of like people would rally behind him. But I thought he goes public and he's way richer now. So it's just like
it would have been great for him. It would have been great for him. And look, he got more money through his through his app. So no matter what, it would have worked out for him.
He made tons. But it seems like
the judge in New York that voted against, like, gave him that he just has to pay half, kind of actually saved them, saved Letitia, saved all of them. So, and I think they didn't want to do it, but they did it just to like save themselves.
What do you mean save themselves? When
the judge ruled that Trump just had to pay half the amount, 175 million, I think it was.
Right.
I think that was a ruling just to like save their skins, like,
they're walking it back so they didn't have the scrutiny placed on them because everybody was
if they started taking his properties, it would have been. I mean, that would have looked so bad.
Well, they kind of got just helped Trump even more out of the situation because they were ready to do it. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to take his properties." So everybody was getting outraged about that, and then they failed. So not only are they after Trump, but they can't get it. So just sort of like, they can try to take my property.
And he made $6 billion more.
Yeah, he's just like, nah, it doesn't bother me. I'm going to keep driving forward. And then they don't do it. So it's sort of like, he's willing to take a bullet for us, but then he didn't have to. So it's great. It's great all around.
Yeah.
All right, Jace, weren't you going to talk about the Joe Biden reacting to the transgender day of visibility or something like that? He said like he
Yes,
didn't.
you want to get into
What happened to
Yep.
that story? Is that the last story you're going to do? I thought that was the first story you're going to do. What happened?
Yeah, we can do it now if you want.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. I'm going to try to turn Kurt's mic volume up just a little bit.
I'm not used to people saying I'm not loud enough. This is unusual for me.
Yeah. Okay. I can control your mic volume. I just realized from here. And I should probably check the comments section out. All right.
Well-
we got a couple of super chats. If you guys put in super chats throughout the broadcast, you will be paying these guys bills and we will love you. And it helps us to
I don't have
save the
bills. I'm
world.
squatting.
But we will read all the super chats right at the end of the show here in the second hour. So wait, hold on.
Okay.
So what happened with that news story? Are we going to do it or what?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start off with first of all that I didn't do that. Biden reportedly has no idea he issued Trans Day of Visibility proclamation.
Are there any memes? I didn't know about this till you guys mentioned it to me because I was trying to write some script stuff for this. I didn't realize that he walked it back. But are there memes yet of him with like his head on the body of Urkel saying I didn't do that? Is that a thing?
Did I do that?
But that's a good one.
I don't know. We might be
this is something that only people from our generation will understand.
I was going to say it's
anybody
very,
who's a little younger than us is going to be like,
our generation.
What are you talking about?
TGIF on
TGIF,
ABC or whatever it was.
holy moly.
Back in the
old
Family Matters days.
So a lot of people on Twitter are basically saying, look, he doesn't do really anything, I don't think, right? Like Biden doesn't actually do like, okay, so I'm going to show you guys something real quick. This is pretty crazy because let me try to present. Let me share my screen here real quick.
Yeah. We're getting to the point now where basically everybody across the board is saying Biden doesn't know what he said and didn't say. Biden doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is Joe Biden. This is his Easter message to all those gathering in churches and homes around the world today. Happy Easter. God bless and keep you. Okay, simple Easter message. Here is his Transgender Day of Visibility message. On Transgender Day of Visibility, we celebrate the joy, strength, and absolute courage of some of the bravest people I know. Today, we show millions of transgender and non-binary Americans that we see them, they belong, and they should be treated with dignity and respect. And he's got this big, pink and blue trans rights or human rights. And it's also annoying, by the way, that the trans colors, like the trans flag or whatever, the trans colors are the same as like Easter colors. That's also, I find, really friggin' annoying. I don't want to even keep that up. It's so ugly and obnoxious. Hey, so he does this little tiny tweet for Easter and then this massive tweet for Trans Awareness Day, which is like the same, or trans whatever, visibility day.
Isn't it funny? I wish for the days of when there was only 3 letters, LGB.
Let's go, Brandon. Anyway, but anyway,
a little slow.
Well, but anyway, so they so we put, but the thing is that none of this is Joe Biden, right? This is Joe Biden's Twitter boy, which I think is actually a chick, but it's funnier to call it Twitter boy.
Is it only one person?
I believe it's this one girl that they hired like ages ago, but I'm sure there's like a whole committee that decides what goes in, and it's all filtered through her, right? But this kind of just exposes that Biden doesn't do any of his stuff. We all know he doesn't do any of his stuff, but it's fun. It's kind of fun to joke around, to like look at it and kind of joke around and see that. And actually, a lot of people thought this was an April Fool's joke because
April Fool's.
Yeah, because everybody was like, "Wait, this cannot be real."
Yeah, I looked at those headlines. I was like, "This is an April Fool's. This can't be real." But then I was like, "Wait a minute, maybe it is."
I had to scroll through several news stories to try to figure out, is this legitimate? Because I was I was like, literally, I couldn't believe it. Because even for Joe Biden, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, anyway. Anybody got any thoughts on
No.
this, or should we move on to the next one? I mean,
Well,
Kurt,
you wanna-
you probably
go
got a
ahead.
good.
You go first, Jason. Go ahead.
well, this whole transgender thing, I just it's just the left's religion. You know, and to do it on Easter, it's perfect that it landed on Easter. I know they've been doing it the last 3 years, but it's perfect that it landed on Easter for them this time because it's just like a certification of their religion. And
We're gonna do the religion thing at the end. Why are you bringing the religion thing in now?
Okay.
We discussed this. This is our
Because it's so perfect
at the
for
end of
this.
the show. We do a. I know. I said we got to do two separate things about this.
All right, let's move on.
Philosophical.
No,
move on
let me say my part. So I did a little bit of research about this. So I wasn't sure about if this was him sort of like, because there's in the news, there's a bunch of like backlash against conservatives in the mainstream media. Wow, what a surprise. They're saying like, oh, you know, it's mischaracterization and like Biden gave an Easter message and he gave a trans message. So we did two completely different messages that conflict with each other. So they cancel each other out. No one should be upset. It's like, okay, that's not how it works. But supposedly this event was created by a transgender activist, Rachel Crandall Crocker. What a handle. From Michigan in 2009. So this activist chick made this up in 2009. It's apparently the 15-year anniversary of this made-up day. And so yeah, it's just like, and of course it did happen to fall on Easter because Easter was not the 31st, you know, the last year before, the year before that or whatever. And Biden did say in 2001, he said like Happy Trans Day on the 31st in 4 years ago, whatever it was 2000 in 2020. Yeah, in 2020, I think he said made the same statement or similar statement. So yeah, I mean, they do kind of have a point where it's like, oh, you know, he wasn't sort of like knocking Easter by saying Happy Trans Day.
No, they don't have
like
a point. No, they don't have a point. They don't have a point because I'm doing a video about this, so I'm researching it a little bit, right? But I'm doing a video about something a little bit different, a theory of James Lindsay, where they're going to try to essentially make Christianity illegal in America.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
They're going to make it so that they can spy on you or even arrest you just for being Christian, essentially, which I'm doing a whole video about that. That's going to come out in a couple of days. So stay tuned for that. Maybe tomorrow. I've already recorded it, so I just have to edit it. But this day of visibility was never announced as a sort of like an official day that we recognize trans people. It was just something that existed, that people did, like trans activists did, and the White House participated in by you know, tweeting about it or whatever, putting out statements about it. But this was actually an official proclamation that we are officially recognizing this day. And they could have done that in 2021. They could have done that in 2022. They could have done that in 2023. They didn't do that in any of those years.
Well, if that's the case, then it was clearly like it was a troll.
Exactly. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
They waited until, this comes on Easter. Let's piss off the Christians. It's a big FU to Christians. I'd love to know whose idea this was in the Biden administration. I wish they would investigate stuff like that. I know,
we can get back to that,
and stupid and little, but
we're gonna get back to that with the religion. So I have a story here. It's the atypical story of. So Michael Cohen, if Trump wins, there will never be another election thereafter.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
Yeah.
Well, so he was on an interview
because we sent.
He was on an interview with the Black Trump. What's her name? The Readout, I think it was. Yeah. So he was on an interview and he was pretty much saying that if Trump wins, there'll never be an election. I don't know how that would work, but yeah.
Well, it's the same kind of like.
I think if he wins, we should Congress should change the law again and make it that there can be an unlimited amount of times a person can run for president. Because I think
You know?
4 more years of Trump is not going to be enough to fix this country.
Mhm.
Well, this is the standard fear mongering of the left, right? They're always like,
Yep.
oh, Trump's going to take away your democracy. They're going to take away our democracy. Well, but the hilarious thing is everything that they have told their voters, their gullible Democrat voters, Trump is going to do all these bad things. They've done all of these things, right? Like, okay, think about this is something I'm putting in the new video that I'm putting out about how they're going to try to make Christianity illegal in America. If you don't believe that they are trying to make Christianity illegal in America, think about this. They have created this whole fiction recently about Christian nationalism. Have you heard about that? Christian nationalism? Basically, the accusation is that there is this essentially like movement in America, which doesn't exist, but they're pretending that it does. This like borderline domestic terrorist organization called Christian nationalists. And their accusation is that we want everyone in America to be Christian. And if you're not Christian, we'll put you in jail for not being a Christian.
This is the FBI's
the jail part,
false flag.
The jail part, I don't agree with, but the wanting everybody to be Christian, I agree with that.
Of course, all Christians want everybody to be Christian. All Muslims want everybody to be Muslim. All atheists want everybody to be atheists. Of course, that's true. But there's no movement to make America officially a Christian country to the degree that we start imprisoning people for not being Christian. But this is the accusation. You'll hear it on like MSNBC. This is not even like, in the sort of radical left circles. I mean, I guess MSNBC is at this point a radical left network, but it's perceived by, Kurt's relatives and other people who are, whoa, where'd Kurt go? We lost him. I offended him, I guess. Hold on. Oh, he's back. I'll add him to the stage. What happened to you?
I don't know. I just lost you guys for some reason. I don't know why. I didn't touch anything.
Okay. Well, anyway, the point is that anybody who is a leftist voter, they think MSNBC is just like a mainstream news network, and they're pushing this propaganda through MSNBC. They're pushing it through mainstream, news that we are going to try to imprison people. And what is the rule about the left? What is the rule about the left? Whenever they accuse us of something, that is exactly what they're doing. Either they're doing it now or they're planning on doing it in the future. They always do this. It's the same thing. Oh, Trump is going to be this evil dictator who's going to arrest his political opponents and put them in like Soviet style courts. Well, what are they doing to Trump? They're just going to arrest Democrat voters. Well, what are they doing with the January 6th protesters?
Yep.
Oh, Trump's going to arrest reporters.
And everyone around Trump too. It's not just Trump. It's so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They went after.
No. You're right. You're right.
All his lawyers.
Well.
Yeah. Giuliani. I mean,
Giuliani.
But there's another example that Biden has actually arrested a reporter from the Blaze.
Yes.
Who broke a big story. I did a video about this. I'm going to do another video about it. Mind blowing that they would do that. They would actually arrest reporters. It's exactly what they warned us that Trump would do. Everything that they're like, oh, Trump's going to start World War III. Okay, well, now what do we have? We have a war between Russia and Ukraine that the entire world is involved in. We have a war between Israel and Palestine that the whole world is involved in. Or it is World War III. All right, we're in World War III, and who's in charge? The Obama 2, right? It's Obama's, third term essentially. So, I don't know. Everything they say that we're doing, they're doing. You guys got thoughts on the story? I'll throw it to you guys.
Yeah, when I heard that him spewing that rubbish about how he's never going to allow there to be another election, I'm thinking like what you said. Like, okay, so they don't want to have another election because it looks really bad for Joe Biden. So what's their play there? Is it going to be like, oh, there's a war, there's too much conflict, too much war going on. We can't, we have to suspend the elections. Just like, I'm just waiting to see what their play is going to be, because like you said, that's what they're fear-mongering over. So that's what's in their heads. That's going to be the plan. So I'm not sure I'm going to pull it off, but
it's just more of the same, I think. I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I agree with Chris. Yep.
Actually, when they first said when they had the Easter thing, my knee-jerk reaction to him saying like, okay, Easter is now like basically like it's not Easter, it's Trans Day, Trans Visibility Day. It's just like, okay, well, they've never been more visible throughout the entirety of human history, but okay, fine, Trans Visibility Day. I'm thinking like, okay, this reeks of desperation to me on their part, because we know that even like people that aren't Christians and stuff, it's part of kind of American culture to have Easter, and for them just to say like, no, it's not Easter, it's Trans Visibility Day. It's like, I don't think the average person in America is worried about trans rights so much as all these other things that's going on in this country. And we like to have things like holidays to, you know, just kind of like not worry about that kind of stuff. And we don't want it thrown in our faces. So what I was thinking with that is, okay, so I feel like they think they're going to lose. It's like when they released, when they tested out like Captain Marvel, Disney was just like, oh, we're going to put out this new movie. Uh-oh, looks like nobody is excited for this thing. This thing is going to freaking bomb. What do? Well, get the cover story ready. So it's just like, okay, like when it bombs, we're going to say it's because people are sexist and they don't like women. It's superhero fatigue. It's this, that, the other. So I felt with this story of, I'm not going back to a previous story, obviously, that made me think of it. Biden is like, Biden loses the election to Trump, and the mainstream media party line is going to be, oh, Biden cared so much about marginalized people. He cared so much about, like, he was so woke that he was just too beautiful for this world, and the racist country of America would not allow this beautiful man to continue to run the country. And we've got Trump back. So see, we told you this country was racist and horrible and evil. So much so that they brought Trump back after we had 4 glorious years of Joe Biden where the economy was fantastic according to us. Everything was wonderful. They brought that evil man Trump back because that's how horrible this country is and how much further our woke cause needs to go. We've got so much more work to do. Like that's what what I thought at the time.
I believe in the opposite. I think this is just to rile up the troops on their side. So if they do lose, it's just gonna make people angry, and they're, it's to make people fear. Look, now a dictator won presidency. They threaten that he's not gonna leave office. So it's just to rile the troops to I don't know, cause violence, cause riots. That's why I think they come up with these stories, and also it's like a projection. And with Biden, I think it's Biden. I think it's the opposite of. I disagree with Kurt. I think they're putting everything. They're doing everything now. They're testing everything now. And when Biden loses, that way the Democrat Party or the left can blame everything on Biden. Like, look, this man was out of his mind. He couldn't be president. So they just throw everything on Biden. And look, it wasn't our fault. It wasn't our fault. We have a new guy now.
No, yeah, they're already laying the groundwork.
Certainly seemed that way some months ago. Biden, they were leading that direction, but they've kind of laid off of him at the moment. They kind of went. It
depends, because there's two competing factions within like the deep state, right? There's those that realize Joe Biden can't win, so they got to throw him under the bus. And then there's others that are like, yeah, but he's the best puppet we've ever had. If you have a puppet this good, you can't lose it, So they're really holding on to him tight. So there's these competing factions.
Well, that's great.
But look, let me explain to you how this works. Let me explain to you how this works. If you can scare the populace, you can control the populace.
Yes.
That's why they always do the climate change crap. That's why they always do, the MAGA extreme MAGA Republicans. They're going to all come out and murder you, I mean, it's all fear-mongering so that people, like sitting in their home watching MSNBC going, oh, gosh, dear, we better vote Democrat. Otherwise, we're all going to be killed by the Christians. Christians, notoriously the most violent, dangerous people on the planet. But this is how they do it. This is how they control people. This is how they've controlled people for hundreds of years. They figured this out, and they always do this. And the Democrats are just very, very good at it. And we got to figure out ways to. I do think that people are waking up and they don't really like to be controlled. And they don't really like that the Democrats believe that they're stupid. And so when they keep doing things and saying things that are all like the bloodbath thing, they're like, Trump said there's going to be a bloodbath, and everybody looked at that. Even Democrats, I would see in the comment section of tweets and things going, look, Trump's bad. We already hate Trump. Like, you don't need to lie to us about him. We already get it. if you do that too much, if you do the bloodbath thing too much, what ends up happening is you lose total trust with the people that you've been manipulating. They will eventually wake up.
I just love Trump. What he brings out of these people is just, I love it.
I know, because they are like losing their minds. Well, the one thing that I like about the fact that I'm doing another story, by the way. I got a story that did I put it out or not yet? But anyway, it's a story about how the there's all these Republicans that are like leaving the House of Representatives. I don't think I put it out yet. I think I'm putting it out tomorrow or something. But there's all these Republicans leaving the House of Representatives, and it's getting us to a position where the Democrats may take over the House if we like lose one more seat. Yeah. Like we're like, we're like just like a gust of wind away from the Democrats taking over. And so there's all this speculation of why is this going on? Why is this? Who's operating things behind the scenes, which I do reveal in my video. So everybody should watch that. But so there's all these people, there's all these sort of evil, megalomaniacs trying to run the show and trying to like run the country in their best interest and what they see fit. And Donald Trump is so difficult for them to deal with that it's exposing a lot of stuff. But like the one good thing about all these people leaving is that most of them are rhinos, I think, right? Because who are the people that they're able to either bribe to leave, or they're able to blackmail to leave, or in some other way coerce to get out? The go-to guys are going to be the rhinos. So we may end up in a situation, if we're lucky, where we completely oust all the rhinos from DC, from the House, at least. Maybe not the Senate, but at least
I think they realize they can't get away with being a rhino anymore. I really do. And
no, we will find you.
What you say with the rhino, it doesn't matter if a Democrat wins, right? Anyway,
we are called big game hunters on the right, the conservatives. We're hunting rhinos, gentlemen, and we're getting rid of them.
I like
public office. Not literally, YouTube. We're not actually literally.
You're inciting violence, Chris.
I know. Oh my God. What have I said?
Demonetized.
Demonetized. They already demonetized our first live stream. They're probably going to do this one.
I know. I assume it's somehow my fault. Most of them are.
It's a lot of the half Asian jokes that we were making.
One of the things too, the Trans Day. I thought it was National Trans Day. It's actually International Trans Day, because of course we can't leave out the Muslims. That would be terrible because they love the trans community so much. For us to ignore them and say it's just America making this effort, that's awful. So I just want to bring that up. Sorry. Move on.
Okay, so all right, let's go with one more news story headline. And there's a study out. It's 42% of film, TV production workers fear AI will harm people in their field. So there's that thing about AI going to take over writing.
About that.
Say it again.
Yeah.
So it shows how. I think AI is a plus for Hollywood. They'll probably make better movies.
Well, here's what I think's going on here. Hollywood is kind of doing something like the auto industry did, right? The auto industry failed in America because they started giving their unions too much money, like their employees too much money.
Yes.
And when you end up paying your employees too much money and you let them get too many benefits and everything like that, you got to sell your product for a lot more money than you should, right? And so I think that Hollywood productions are going to become so expensive that they're going to become untenable. And they wouldn't be untenable except that with the advance of AI, because right now they're regulating themselves with the AI. They're basically saying like, if we use AI here or there, we have to like tell the actors and all this kind of stuff. They're like hamstringing themselves. But the thing is, Jason is an independent filmmaker.
Yes.
I am an independent filmmaker to some degree. Not really as good as Jason, but to some degree. And we can use AI in an unlimited capacity.
I was just going to say that. I think that's the number one thing they're afraid of. AI is going to make it easier for the average person to actually produce, film, and make a movie, write, and make a movie. So I think that's where their fear comes from. It's just
give it 10 years, and everybody in his garage will be able to make a Hollywood-style major motion picture, and Hollywood's going to be effed So
Yep.
why are you limiting yourself with the way you can produce a film? Now, here's the one thing that I disagree with everybody. Everybody thinks that AI is going to be able to produce these amazing scripts, right? I've used AI to try to help me write things already. I've tried. And I'm pretty good at using the AI and using the prompts and everything like that. I'm not great at it. I'm not an expert, but you research it and you look into it and you try to get good at it. And let me tell you, AI is not that creative. Like AI can take ideas you already have.
Chris, you're giving Hollywood the benefit of the doubt. Those stories and scripts are probably better than anything Hollywood's doing now. So,
Well, that is true. That is true because they're all into DEI and they don't care about quality anymore. They only care about like how black and lesbian can we make this? And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later when we get into talking about Roadhouse, which is the big pop culture item on the docket here. It's 7:52, so we don't have that much time left. Shall we get into Roadhouse, or do we got more news stories to go?
No, we could get into Roadhouse.
Kurt, do you want to jump in on this Hollywood thing?
Oh, no, I guess
you
not.
can say no.
Yeah. Well, I want to think about it for a second.
Okay.
If I think of something, I'll interrupt the current topic we're talking about, and I'll bring it back. Okay. That seems to be a trend of mine. I won't hold me up for a second.
Last live stream, I went on this long tirade about how many women I date and stuff like that. And the punchline or the plot twist was going to be, we romanticize this lifestyle in the West, like, oh, James Bond or, Bruce Wayne, the playboy. It's so cool, But I don't think it's cool, actually. I think it's a sort of product of not being able to find the one, right? Not being able to find the girl you want to be with. And I think having a good wife, having a good, solid, loyal wife is actually way better than dating 1,000 supermodels. You know what I mean? But we romanticize that. We promote that. And I think that degrades our society quite a bit. And I can tell you, kind of living that lifestyle is not so good. That was going to be the point I was trying to make. But I got about halfway done with my little story, and Kurt interrupted me and completely derailed the conversation. So then it just made me sound like a guy who was bragging about how many women he dated. I'm like, I had a point there. But so at the beginning of the show today, before we went on the air, I was like, I mean, I don't mind being interrupted, but like, choose the points.
If that makes you feel better, Chris. Okay.
Yeah. So now I really don't care about going back to a topic we touched on, because you went all the way back to the last show.
I did. Yes, I did.
That.
Well, I wanted to explain your little aside there. All right, so you want to get into Roadhouse? You guys have both watched Roadhouse. You made me watch Roadhouse.
Well. I have to say, I couldn't get past a half an hour of it. So
really,
so you never watched the whole? Okay, I didn't realize. I thought you'd watched most of it.
I couldn't like I come from I'm an 80s Roadhouse guy, and yeah. I couldn't. But
listen, I had never seen the original Roadhouse, so I actually watched the original Roadhouse back to back with the new Roadhouse, and I completely understand where Jason's coming from, because I don't think the new Roadhouse is a bad movie per se. It's very much a sort of like silly popcorn movie. It's okay. There is some like woke crap in there, which annoyed the hell out of me.
Did you get all the way through it?
I did. Well, I had to, because I was going to do this show. But the original Roadhouse, you guys, and I don't want to go too much into it because I think I want to do it on Make Movies Great Again with Sebastian Gorka that I do every week. But, like,
that's right.
You guys,
crazy.
Yeah, you need.
I related to that movie so much. It was eerie. No. But like the last 2 years of my life, like after I broke up with my ex, I started dating this girl from Belarus, right? And the girl in the original Roadhouse from the 80s looks almost identical to this girl I was dating. And so, and all these things from the movie started lining up with my life. And you ever have that happen where you watch a movie and you're like, "Ooh, this is like they're like telling my life story here."
Yeah,
like, this
you
is
also
really
thought
weird,
the guy's throat once, but he had it coming.
But you could take the contrast of both movies, the openings.
Yeah.
Like, how does the original Roadhouse open? It's a beautiful car and a beautiful girl walks out of the car. You know,
the Ferrari.
And then you have the originals just weird.
The new one has that rapper. What's his name? in a fight.
Yeah. Wow, that guy kind of did a reverse Hugh Jackman there. Did he actually get out of shape for this role, or did he just like? Because it was kind of distracting.
It was,
His body was just sort of like, it's really.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows how little ego Post Malone has. Just like, you know what? I
yes.
want Jake Gyllenhaal to look really, really awesome.
Oh my god!
So I'm just going to be as disgusting as possible. I'm going to look like a partially melted snowman with covered in tattoos. And then when they see Jake Gyllenhaal, they'll be like, yes, he is Dalton. Look at that fine specimen of humanity right there. It's like, so I mean, hats off to Post Malone for having no ego. And
for real, yeah, that's humility, man. We need more of that in the world.
Captain Dad bod for the win.
But Patrick Swayze's impossible to replace. Like, why even remake this movie? It's
okay, look, I don't know what Jake Gyllenhaal's like in real life, but I gotta jump in here because what Jason's saying is so spot on true. You watch that movie with the great thing about Swayze is that he's so good looking, you kind of want to hate him, right? Like you look at him and you go, this a-hole, like, why is he so good looking? That's annoying, right? Like you think if me and Swayze go into a nightclub, I'm not getting any girls that night. Like it's all Swayze, But he's such a great guy. Like the way he talks, he's very charismatic. He's like a real nice guy. And so you love him anyway. You know what I mean? And he's exactly the kind of guy that you want as a leading man. He's the kind of guy that in the 80s, all the leading men were kind of like that, And we've really lost that. Now we have, like, look, Jake Gyllenhaal, he might be an awesome guy in real life. I don't want to say anything like bad about Jake Gyllenhaal because I don't know him. I never met him. I don't really know anybody who knows him. So like when I was in Hollywood, I didn't really know anything about Jake Gyllenhaal. I did know people who knew other big stars, which I talked crap about. And I felt really bad because I found out they were actually really awesome guys. So I don't want to say anything too bad about Jake Gyllenhaal, but he really, I just felt like he lacked so much charisma. And he's not like the super hot guy that Swayze was, but which is fine. You don't have to be that in a movie, but he was like, so, I don't know, man. It was just like too low energy or something. You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know.
He was probably starving and dehydrated because he looked like
he was definitely
so lean.
Yeah.
I think that was part of the thing too. It's like he's like, okay, I'm gonna be like this badass. Well, I'm not gonna put on a ton of size necessarily, but I'm gonna look, really, really cut. I'm gonna look awesome for this movie.
Well, so Swayze had such low body fat. That's like the one thing they definitely got right in the movie.
Sure, but I mean, he looked healthy. I mean, he wasn't. He was smoking cigarettes, and he was probably already dying of cancer even back then. But he looked healthy. Jake Gyllenhaal did not look healthy. He looked sick.
No,
you're right.
But
when you get lean, your face doesn't look good.
Yeah, the whole thing is it was missing character. Missing everything that the original had. Even with the female owner, and it's not that I care that it was a female owner that came to get him to go to her club.
Well, why didn't they make her an old lady? Why did they make her a young black woman? It's weird.
But it was just missing soul in that film, like,
because there was somebody that was writing the movie that needed to see themselves, Chris. Everyone needs to see themselves, or the film is offensive.
This is one of the most DEI infused films I've seen so far, and it completely ruined the movie. And and I don't know, because the director's a good director. Doug Liman is a good director. Like he's done some amazing movies. And then you get Conor McGregor, who's also awesome dude. I love him on Twitter, right? Like he's like trying to fight to bring Ireland back from the brink because you got so many illegal immigrants, coming into Ireland. It's destroying Ireland. So I love Conor McGregor, but for some reason, and I don't know if this is a Conor McGregor thing. Maybe you guys can tell us in the comments section. Kurt will probably know this, but he had this, like, I don't want to say swear on the live stream, but he had this something eating grin on his face the whole movie. And I did not really understand that. I was like, why is he smiling all the time? Like, it's creepy. I get he's supposed to be like a little bit psycho or something like that.
I think that's what he was going for.
I think he's trying to portray what he portrays in his UFC interviews and all that. Just that character.
Yeah, but it was
because he's not an actor. I mean,
I know, but it was distracting, right? Like it wasn't. It was not naturalistic. He should have just
I
played
think
a
in his
normal
mind,
villain.
he was trying to be like the Heath Ledger Joker, like every bad guy for like a while was the Heath Ledger Joker. And I think
I don't think it worked.
Not being able to do that, and that's what we got.
Right.
It was the director's job to make sure that
because exactly
that's why I brought up Doug Liman. That's why I brought up Doug Liman. Yeah. But look, you know, I still liked him in the movie. He like is so imposing. Like his frame is just weird. Like I understand why he has that weird walk, you know, because he's like so broad. He's like so broad. He looks like he's riding a horse when he's walking. But he's a cool dude in real life. Like I like him on Twitter and everything. But like I don't know, man. Like in the movie, it just didn't work. I felt, but you know, nothing in that movie worked. They tried to make it a lot more jokey than the original Roadhouse, and none of the jokes played. And all the characters were like these like woke baristas. Yeah, and I'm like, they made Roadhouse with woke baristas. And I don't know. None of it was authentic.
In the original, you just saw that character development. Not only the character development of the main character, but you also saw the development of that club, of the people that work there. You know, and that was missing.
The people in town, his relationship with the girl, everything developed well. I didn't even buy his relationship with the little girl and the old black guy, who, of course, every black person in this movie was like the good angel, you know, against the evil whites, which is ridiculous. And Jake Gyllenhaal comes in and saves the day, but then he gives all his money away. Like,
why didn't they get a black actor for that role? Why didn't they get a black
for the hero?
Actor
It's a good question.
Yeah. Why does it always got to be a white guy?
In the end, Jake Gyllenhaal, hey, he's found all this money, right?
It's in Florida. It should have been a Spanish guy.
It should have been a Hispanic guy. Yeah,
should have been a Cuban.
Latino. Should have been a Cuban. Yeah, and he gives all the money to this black family and like takes off. And it's supposed to be like the nice touching moment that he's really the hero and all this kind of thing. I don't know, man. Like, if you've seen the original Roadhouse, I don't want to give it away. And again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I want to talk about it on Make Movies Great Again. But the ending of the original Roadhouse was shocking to me. There's a few shocking moments to me. Like he actually tears the guy's throat out on screen. You're like, what is going on? You know. And then at the end of the movie, he can't do it because he's like, you know, it's not a moment where it's just like a reaction. He's got a moment to think and he can decide what to do. And he decides not to do it. And the girlfriend walks in and they're both like, okay, you know, I'm going to try to be a good person and not murder somebody for you, you know. And then, boom, these guys show up. The guys from the town show up. They blow this guy away. It's what?
Yeah, it's like Frontier Justice. The first shotgun blast, you can sort of like be like, okay, because he had the gun and he was going to shoot Dalton or the girl or both of them, whatever. So the first guy, like, I guess the explanation would be like they show up as like the cavalry, like, oh, we got to go help Dalton. Of course, he's taking
the
care of everything.
Yeah, it's like the Magnificent Seven, where the town raises up against the bandits.
But I'm not sure who it was, but three guys from the town. One guy shoots him, conceivably to stop him from shooting Dalton and the girlfriend. But then the other two guys just shoot him also. Just he's murdered at that point. Like he's like, okay,
no, he's murdered. Yeah.
They murdered him. But
and also in the original, Dalton has a much better backstory because he kills a guy because he ends up sleeping with this girl who doesn't tell him that she's married. The husband comes home, pulls a gun, and then he sort of reacts and kills the guy in self-defense. That is a very tough story because what are you going to do in that circumstance? Like, the guy who pulls the gun on you isn't actually the bad guy. He's actually the victim.
But they did the same thing in the remake because they made Jake Gyllenhaal a psychopath and a murderer.
I know. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You know what? I'm mad now. He turned into Tobey Maguire in a slasher movie. He's like, I'm mad now, so I'm going to murder people. Just like,
that was such a weird thing for me. I'm like watching this. I'm going, I'm not that sympathetic to him beating his best friend to death in the ring. Like I don't like watch that and think, oh, this poor guy was in this bad situation. I think there was a moment when one of the villains goes, there's something wrong with you, just like me. I think it was actually Conor McGregor that says,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with me too. And I sat there and I was like, yeah, they made him an unsympathetic villain character, essentially. Like,
They made him
you
a
kind of
weirdo.
don't, you kind of don't want him to win or anything. You just kind of want him to like go away. He's like gross and horrible and crazy. And I guess he's doing something nice for if you could turn this around like Karate Kid, where Cobra Kai is actually the victims, and how they do that kind of as a joke. Well, you could do that with this movie. You could actually think about it like, actually, this guy's just trying to build a hotel, and all these a-holes are trying to stop him, and they end up killing all of his men and everything like that. You know what I mean? I mean, sure, they burned down a bookstore, but like, they really didn't do anything that terrible. And now you murder them all? Like, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
in the original, that's what you get that like the hero is like forced into the situation. He really doesn't want it, but he's forced into it, and that's great. Also, the band in the original Roadhouse with the blind guy, amazing. Like that whole, like the music, the band, and that whole thing with the friendship with the blind guy. That's another thing that was missing.
Yeah, it's really actually missing sort of like good characters all around. We don't even have his mentor character. Wade Garrett's not in the movie. I actually forgot about that too. Yeah, the guy that's the leader of the band, he knows Dalton. They have a rapport going. That guy's got charisma, and they replaced Red West, the red-haired guy that used to work for Elvis. They replaced him with a little black girl. It's just like, okay, so now we got kids in the movie. Like there were no like kid main characters. It's a crummy town. There's no like important little cutie kid characters in the movie. It's just totally, completely wrong. And that movie, Roadhouse, is very much like a Western. It was a throwback kind of a film. It was almost like a movie you'd watch in like the late 50s, early 60s, but they brought it into the 80s, and that sort of like made it an 80s movie. Like you had that feeling. Yeah. Everything that's wrong with this movie is the modern audience effect. Where it's like, we'll remake this movie, but they miss everything that made the movie great. They only got the most basic sort of like snapshot idea of what it is. Like, there's this cool character named Dalton who can beat up anybody, and there's this other guy he has to fight, and he's a bad guy, and there's a bar, and it's like, okay, we can make the movie. Like they miss everything that made that movie great. Yeah. And instead of having all the throwback elements that people love about Westerns, that sort of like fundamental sort of like this guy rides in town, is going to clean up the town. Instead, you've got Jake Gyllenhaal, whose like voice is cracking with this weird high-pitched voice and these bug eyes, like you're watching Tobey Maguire play Dalton. I couldn't get away from.
See, this is why I didn't want to go too hard.
Which would be my last point on it, because it's just Jake Gyllenhaal. I have nothing against him.
Like Jake Gyllenhaal, but
I have nothing against him. But does he look like Dalton? No.
No, he doesn't. Even shredded, even jacked, he does not look like Dalton. We got a couple of good comments about this. Demon Slayer says you're missing a major point. There were 0 black people besides one bartender in the original Roadhouse. Everyone was white, and not just white. They were almost all white men. And it goes to show that there's this idea that like diversity makes everything better. Well, this is kind of proof that actually the opposite might sometimes be true.
That bartender character,
but the bartender was great though. The bartender
he was great.
Like brought a lot to the film.
Yeah, he's actually a famous actor. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah.
Keith David's a great actor, and actually they had since we're on the Keith David thing, they had a whole subplot involving him. They had a whole subplot with Keith David that they ended up cutting out of the movie because it lifted right out. It didn't. It was just sort of like existed into itself, and they could cut it, so they did. But it was a racist thing, where Keith David was an anti-racism message. That's why they had a good actor like Keith David. But in the movie, it's just basically a cameo, because they took it out of the movie because it didn't need to be in there. And they did the opposite with this movie. They sort of like built the movie around the messaging of like, okay, we have to have a message instead of like what serves this film the best. And they decided, even though they went with the intention of having this message movie, like, well, it's kind of kills the pacing. We don't need it.
Well, there wasn't any real anti-racism message. It was just, let's make every black character a good, sympathetic, family, church-going, good person, and every white person an evil piece of crap. Even Jake Gyllenhaal is a sort of anti-hero. He's like not a good person. He's like a psycho. Demon Slayer also throws out a good point. In the original, you cared for the characters, and I didn't care for anyone in the new movie. I totally agree with that.
Even the nurse,
Lucia,
like when he first meets her, she's a jerk.
Man, you just wind Kurt up on a movie, and he can just go for effing ever. Lucia Rodriguez
how he
writes,
meets the nurse.
sorry, not
How
a
he
nurse,
meets
doctor.
the nurse
She's
is
a doctor.
ridiculous.
Excuse me.
How he meets the nurse is ridiculous. He brings people that he just beat up to the hospital, and she just
Yeah,
runs
yeah.
after him
I'm
like,
a
"What's
nice
your problem?"
guy. Yeah.
They wanted to make this movie quirky.
Lucia Ruiz writes, do Coming to America next. We've actually done Coming to America on Make Movies Great Again, the show with Sebastian Gorky. You can find that on Rumble. It's an excellent show. Everybody should watch that. But I think we're out of time for that segment. Do you guys want to quickly go through the philosophical idea before we get to the super chats, which is only 3 super chats. So if you want a super chat to throw in there, we will read your super chat at the end of the show. But we wanted to quickly go through the philosophical ramifications of this transgender day of visibility being on the same day as Easter. And the concept, and Jason was kind of, I had to interrupt him earlier because he was jumping in and trying to get this stuff out earlier. But this is something I wanted to talk about at the end of the show. The concept of leftism, wokeism, environmentalism, all these kind of leftist ideas being adopted by the left kind of as a replacement for Christianity. They're doing away, they're sidelining Christianity, and they're making leftism their new religion. And I think this is a lot of times why leftists are so passionate about defending their political ideas, is because they're defending their religion. And Jason, since you were, chomping at the bit there, or champing at the bit, as I've heard that it's actually supposed to be called. So why don't we go to you, Jason? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So
about
what
that?
I was saying was, it's actually perfect that it landed on Easter this time, because, like I said, right now that's the left's religion, transgenderism, all that stuff. It was perfect because it was like a certification of their religion. It landed on a Christian religion, and it's perfect that it lands on Easter for them also because they get to shove it into Christians' faces.
Right,
which is
right.
at the end of the day, that is their motive. That's they love doing that. It's a very satanic thing there, that they have going there. And but I have a perspective on that. Like, let them have their day. let them have their transgender day. Let all the liberal lefties be transgender and all that, because at the end of the day, we're gonna benefit because conservative people and families, they're eventually going to reproduce themselves out. So,
I hope so.
So because on our side, we're not gonna, we're gonna have the families, we're gonna raise our kids with Christian values, and even if they're not Christians, you're a conservative, you're gonna raise your kids with values that kind of relate with Christians. So, yeah.
Well, let me say that everywhere I've been in America where there was like a significant gay community. So I lived in New York City, I lived in Toronto, I lived in Los Angeles. I didn't live in San Francisco or anywhere like that, but they always take something Christian and turn it gay somehow.
Yep.
It's like a thing that they do. I don't really. It's like poking somebody in the eye. It's like stabbing them in the gut. They really hate Christianity, and it really is a war on Christianity. In Toronto, there's a street called Church Street in Toronto, and Church Street is the gay street in Toronto. Like, if you want to go be like amongst the gays, right? And if you want to go to LA, it's West Hollywood. If you want to go to New York,
I need to write this down for my travel plans.
It's the Village. It's the Village. And if you go to Toronto, it's Church Street. But then I was staying at a hostel in New York, in the Village, and they have literally a converted church, converted church in New York that is a gay nightclub. They did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Obviously, they could have used any building. They specifically used a converted church. Why did they do that? Well, that's obviously intentional. In West Hollywood, they named the major nightclub for gay men in Los Angeles is called the Abbey. Well, why do they call it that, right? It's always an attack on Christianity. And they always go, well, we're just trying to live our lives like normal people. We're just born this way. I don't understand why you're attacking us.
Yeah.
But,
Meanwhile, they're in a nun outfit.
It's like the younger sibling thing where it's just like poke, and you give them the one shove, and they're crying, and now mom.
Yeah, why did you push me? I don't understand.
Do you have younger siblings?
But the thing is, we're not even pushing them. They're lying about being pushed, right? Nobody's doing anything to the LGBTQP community.
Well, that's part of the
always have to
identity,
include the P, guys. Remember to include the P, because you can't leave that demographic out of the equation. They're part of the group, okay? Whether the rest of them want them in it or not.
The gay people that I know, they're also kind of annoyed with all that too. So I think it's mainly just a change society, change a culture, and then yeah. I don't know. It's like, but you don't have to officially make the announcement on Easter. Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. But no. But okay. So that's a thing. That's a thing specifically about those particular politics. But I think with regard to the left taking on climate change as a religion and all this kind of stuff, I do think we have some kind of like compulsion to have a purpose in our lives. And I write about this in the video that I've made that's coming out soon about this very issue. But I'll just talk about it a little bit here. I think that we all do kind of perceive that there's something out there that is bigger than ourselves, beyond the material world, but we're not quite sure what it is if we don't have if we're not taught as children to believe in God, to believe in Christ, to have this, this particular faith. I think that we still perceive that greatness around us, but we don't really understand what it is. So we're kind of lost. And like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that when you think, oh, there's something great in the universe? Well, I know what Kurt does. He runs away. He's like, I'm back. Put me back on stage. Yeah, I don't know why you're disappearing there, buddy. Anyway, but the point I'm trying to make is people feel this need to have some purpose in life. So if you're not a Christian, what do? You join Antifa. You join Black Lives Matter. You join some climate activist group. You become an LGBTQP ally. You do all these things, these things that don't really do anything of value in the world. And here's what really is frustrating to me. The straight white man is not a sexy victim, right? We don't want to be victims. We don't complain about much, even though society might be oppressing us or might find it, they don't want to hire us for jobs because, we gotta go after the black lesbians or whatever it is.
There's something seductive about being a Christian in terms of how your life is on earth and how your day-to-day.
Well, but
you're
I think
inviting a lot of work onto yourself, like a lot of responsibility.
You are it's burdensome. It's burdensome. But the point I'm trying to make is, we are not a sexy victim class. Nobody wants to help out the straight white Christian man, but what you want to do is you want to look back in time and go, oh, Martin Luther King marched for the civil rights of black people. Therefore, I want to march for the civil rights of black people. And we romanticize this idea of helping out black people all the time. And so they get it in their heads like, I want to be a champion for the blacks. Well, the blacks aren't really that oppressed anymore. Yes, they are. You just don't know it. It's systemic racism and all this kind of stuff. And I'm fighting for gay rights. Well, do gay people need more rights? Yes, because, the straight white man hates them and you're the bad guys. Actually, I think we're more victimized than anybody else. No. So if you were actually trying to make the world a better place, you would actually go out and help poor straight white Christian men who are the least helped people on the planet. We're not all gallivanting around the globe having a great time. Some of us are in real trouble in America. You know what I mean? And people don't care about them because they have all the advantages. They're the best. They're the best. They don't say they're the best. They say they have the most advantages. And therefore the straight white Christian male, we have no sympathy for them. And they're just crapped on all the time. But then they go after and they help all these other groups that don't need help at all. But so you have this sort of religion on the left that does no good, and I would say actually makes the world a far worse place. React and mock me if you must.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to the leftist religion is really just narcissism, because it's you eliminate
Yes.
Christianity, you eliminate God, you eliminate all these things, and it's a result of the left trying to destabilize everyone, because if they're destabilized, they'd have nothing to believe in. They could be manipulated, controlled. So Christianity's bad. Your dad, he's a man. He's bad. It's like, women, men, they're bad. Everybody watch out for everybody else. Everybody see all the bad and the evil in the world, and nobody get along. Everybody be rootless and baseless and adrift, and therefore we can, jingle our keys at you and be like, oh, there's something I can wrap my life around, something that hasn't been ruined.
The people that created the greatest country in the world is just bad.
Yeah, I'm doing a bit on narcissism as well.
Sorry, what you said was made a lot of sense, where it's sort of like, okay, take the church and turn it into a gay nightclub. It's the perversion of everything. Just like, oh, this thing that some people like, you shouldn't invest anything in that, because actually those people are bad people. And it's just like, okay, well, what's left? It's like they eliminate everything that's foundational in this country, and all that's left is nonsense, like climate change, like trans rights, like all of these things that either don't exist or affect such a small amount of people. And these are things that are promoted. So something that is not an issue keeps becoming more of an issue, because you're glamorizing the trans people. So all the people that they fit neatly into these two different characters, like they're a savior. They're like, oh yeah, I'm for the trans people. They need my help. They need to be protected and saved. Just like, well, I mean, not really. And then, or they join the victim class and they're like, you know what? I don't have anything going on. Like, I'm just I'm aimless or whatever. Maybe I'm trans, so then you have that group growing.
It's a very fun thing to do, to say I'm a victim, because then you get all this attention. Jason seems like he's like, again, champing at the bit to jump in.
That's the seductive angle of it. You can be a hero. You can be a victim.
Kurt's not going to let you, Jason. Kurt is never going to let you talk.
I'm just gonna,
go ahead.
If Jason wants to talk, I will talk. That is the rule.
No, them changing everything. What Kirk was saying, it was even with schools. Like they got rid of the Bible, they got rid of prayer, replaced it with those sex books and those perverted books and just pride flags and it's a brainwashing that they're doing, and so
the whole thing about the books to me is crazy. They're like, oh, I think these books aren't appropriate for these kids, and they're like, you're burning books. It's the weirdest controversy ever in America. All right, let's get to the super chats real quick. We actually have a full half an hour left on the show if we want to address the chat. So if you guys want to give us a super chat, we will go ahead and read it on the air. If not, we'll just read your regular chats, because you know what? It's not all about the money, but it's a little bit about the money, right? So, okay, we got a chat from God's Man is Tough. Give us $2. Thank you, God's Man is Tough. He writes, I should probably put this in the thing here. I can do this, I've realized. He writes, keep up the good work. Well, thank you so much. We've got another super chat here from Hoff Power Concrete Semperfied Crawfish Company. $5. He says, best channel on YouTube, other than mine, of course. Subscribe to that man's channel. I support that. Let's see here. Ian sends me $10. Thank you so much, Ian, and a beautiful little dog you've got there. That's an adorable puppy. And then he writes, okay, tinfoil hat sidebar. April 8th, we got the eclipse. They're launching rockets to measure things, and they are turning back on CERN. Is it aliens? Love your show. I will comment on this.
About that.
I will comment on this by saying I have no idea what you're talking about.
Thank God.
Jason apparently does.
When Jason said, I know what he's talking about. I figured Chris would be like, oh yeah, me too. And I'm just going to be over here like sweating. Like, I have no idea.
No, I have no idea. Okay. I don't know what this is.
I mean, I really can't say much about it. I've heard of it and I don't know.
Well, explain. What does
weird,
it mean?
A lot of weird things going on.
You're well, the attack on Israel is aliens.
Huh? Say that.
It sounds like what he's saying is the attack on Israel was aliens.
Oh,
Everybody's trying to read this back
Yeah.
to try to figure out what
Yeah.
the heck. And I don't know what turning back on CERN. I don't know what that means either.
well, CERN is that thing in Europe that they're
Yeah,
like,
in Switzerland. Yeah.
yeah, and they're like, it's like
I
some
haven't
people
read
are saying
about that
it's
either. I
a,
guess
they're opening a door to like hell.
Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah, like they're opening a portal to like the hell and stuff like that, and they're gonna let in all this like demonic stuff in. That's what I've heard about CERN.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of that. That's pretty intense stuff here.
Because
Chris,
if
reminds me
you
of my
see
old
the grand
screenplay, huh?
opening, like if you go to videos and you check out the CERN, the opening of the CERN, like they had a celebration opening it, and it was all very, the symbolism was all very demonic, and
Wow,
whenever you have a
okay,
chance, go check it out. Yeah.
I should check that out. Okay, Ian. So Jason might agree with you a bit, even though we don't
Well,
quite
they're
understand.
scientists, so we know that they're atheists at best and devil worshippers at worst,
exactly.
right?
Yes.
Well, we got another $5 super chat from Dame Piglet. She writes, "Howdy, belated Salvation Awareness Day." That's actually awesome. I love that.
That's good.
I assume that you invented that term, but that's absolutely brilliant.
I'm
I want to
stealing
actually
that.
start using it. I'm going to steal that. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Thank you, Dame Piglet. You are absolutely lovely. Yeah, okay, so we're not getting a ton of super chats, so I guess we'll just go back to the regular chat.
Yeah, maybe the regular chats will give us some topics.
Alexander Faust basically is ridiculing me ruthlessly and writes, "Incredible that you've never heard these theories with CERN." Yeah, I don't know. I don't... yeah. And then he also writes, "Yes, specifically involving the god Shiva, an Indian god." Let me tell you guys, at one of the airports out here, I don't remember which airport it was, they've got this giant statue of this monster demon thing. They do these in Bali, where I was staying. They have a night where nobody's allowed to use electricity. Nobody's allowed to talk. It's for an entire day. You're not allowed to talk, which I think is actually curt. I've been meaning to tell you. I think we should write this into a horror movie. Like these kids from Europe go to stay at a hostel, and they're like, "Oh, we're not allowed to make noise today," and ha 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 ha, right? And like the person that works there is like, "No, really, seriously, guys, you should not make any noise today." And they're
Now
like,
somebody's
okay,
going to get on
whatever.
AI and write your story.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, you go to these parades like the day before they have this day of silence. And the day of silence apparently is supposed to trick the demons of the island into thinking that there's no one here. It's a really weird day, man. I walked outside to see what it was like, and it was just blackness everywhere.
Wow.
It was crazy.
I love this. This is all, man.
It was cool.
It was
cool. It was really interesting to live to live through it, but to experience it, I guess. I should live through it.
I survived.
I'm a survivor. I survived the day of silence.
Yeah.
But the day before the parade, they have these massive, like wooden statues of like demons that they then burn at like graveyards at the end of it, and then they have the day of silence the next day.
Wow.
I never actually saw the parades. I didn't go out because I was like not interested. But my friend Floor, she sent me a bunch of videos of it because she watched it, and it's
when was
freaky,
this?
man. I'll send it to you. Huh?
When was this?
Just
if
like
you're in Bali,
a couple weeks ago.
when it happens again, I need to go. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, well, a year. It'll be in a year. Dame Piglet also writes, "Society is getting increasingly narcissistic." I do write about that in another video that's coming up. I think that narcissism is, I call it a subcult. I call it a subcult from the woke cult. The woke cult is the broader cult, and then you got the subcult, which is the narcissism cult. And I think it's mostly women. I'm afraid to say. I do think there's a lot of men in this cult now too, but the feminists have been telling women for so long now, you know, you need to put yourself first. You need to make everything about you. You know, don't let the family. I think my laundry's being delivered soon. I'm getting text messages from the laundry people. We want to bring back your laundry. Anyway, so yeah, so I think narcissism has become a hugely significant problem. I agree with her.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm going through the comments. You guys can.
Isolation. I think that's part of the narcissism.
Oh my
too.
God,
It's just
Kurt!
like,
It's like, did you read the script that I wrote? Because I actually talk about the isolation problem
no,
as well.
just great
That's
minds
amazing.
think alike, Chris.
Great.
But yeah, it's just
minds
like,
think
they had
alike.
the lockdowns, and they have like the remote working and the get everything delivered and all that sort of thing, and be on your phone, do dating apps, all the thing is done through like, through your
Yeah.
phones and stuff. So like people are
Mhm.
getting more and more isolated. And yeah, I think there's also, and then that's going to lead to, obviously they're doing more of like the TikTok and everything. They're going to try to control media and control, just like, I think that's the big threat of TikTok, is like, okay, we don't control this version of
Mhm.
social media. So they don't want people even expressing themselves honestly through their computers, through their smartphones. It's just like, we need
Right.
control the messaging, and don't have people banded together. Like with COVID, when COVID hit, the first thing they did was shut down the churches.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, we got
Isn't
an
that
excuse
crazy
to do
that they shut down the
we got
churches?
an excuse
You're
to
not
do what we
allowed to
wanna
go to
do.
church.
Yeah, it wasn't about COVID. It was about what they wanted to do. They shut down the churches, so they had an excuse and pulled the trigger immediately. But anyway,
Yeah.
we can get off that.
Absolutely terrible. Dame Piglet just wrote, at Franklin, laugh, laugh, laugh. Oh, because there's a guy in the chat called Franklin, which is quite funny because my friend Kurt here is Kurt Franklin. So maybe you guys are related somehow.
Benjamin Franklin did get around, I heard.
Yeah. It looks like the chat's kind of having their own personality between themselves, ignoring us at this point.
Talk amongst yourselves. Don't give us
Just
any
talk
topics.
amongst yourselves. You guys, I think that's been a pretty satisfying second episode. Guys, we're going to be here every day, every Monday and Thursday. Not every day, not yet. Every Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And, this is a great fun for me. I actually love chatting with you guys about the news. Hopefully, as we do it, I feel like this went a lot better than last time. The first episode, it was a little bit buggy. This episode, there was a few hiccups, but I think it's more or less pretty good. So this is going to be the format going forward. As we develop the show, maybe it'll turn into something a little this way, a little that way, but we're going to, I think we're going to figure it out. We're going to settle in.
Sure.
And we're going to have a good show soon enough. So if you think it's a bit rough still now, just give it a little bit of time.
Hang in
and
there.
I think
At
we're
some
going to
point,
have
this show will get good.
Yes, that's
point,
that's what I'm trying to say here. At some point, it will get good. But yeah. So the next episode is going to be on Thursday. But I think we're going to say goodnight. God's man is tough. Jumped in at the last minute with another super chat. He's written here, you should do one on who's buying up U.S. farmland. That is actually a very good point.
Yep.
It's a very good point. I always say that, like, the Frodo Lives says, Chris and you guys, this was a great show. And actually, you guys have been providing us some very good feedback on the show. It's been very positive, and I really appreciate it. These guys, they're not YouTubers, they're not podcasters.
Nope.
They've never done this really stuff much before in the past. So to get them on here, it was kind of like pulling teeth, but we got them to do it.
So dramatic.
And not Kurt so much, but Jason.
It took about a year, right?
Yeah, it did. I've been wanting to do this show for a long time, so I'm join the redeem. Join the redeem says, Mr. Reagan, you are a bold guy. I'm not really sure why they said that. Do you guys have any idea?
Bold?
Yeah. I mean, I do tend to say things that other people will not say.
Maybe just in general.
But look, but we love doing the show. I mean, I love doing the show. I don't know about these guys. I can't speak for them. But it's a good time, and I think it's only going to get better. So on Thursday, we're going to bring up another one. And, what do you guys think? You looking forward to it?
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm actually
good.
loving it. Yeah.
Because I didn't know what the answer was going to be.
Well, you don't lose much choice, Chris. We can't be like, meh.
Well, you could. You could, actually.
Nothing I'd rather do.
All right.
I wish we were
I can't go back now. I'm all in now. So
I'm all in. I'm all in. I know. Jason's always worried a little bit that people will find out that he does this show and they'll realize he's conservative and then he'll never work again anywhere in any other profession. we're hoping that this show gets good enough that we get a big enough audience, that we got enough super chats and all that kind of stuff that we can basically make this thing profitable for the three of us. Yeah, so that's what
But
we're aiming
I
for.
agree with you, Chris. But my main thing is sometimes you just got to step up, like, and not be a silent voice. So I feel like it's time. I mean, now's the best time to stand up for what you believe in and fight for it. So, and YouTube, this platform gives us the chance to do that. So, yeah,
that's absolutely right. And we can keep doing this with those super chats. We can hopefully this thing continues to be grow and become a bigger and bigger live stream. And in time, hopefully, we will be able to save the world. All right. Well, that's it for all of us. And as always, Kurt just disappeared again.
Cursed.
How does that? You just I'm leaving now. Let me just do my closing thing. Remember, everybody, it's not that Aloba friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday.